welcome to episode 13 of Rally the Creed Live. I'm Col, one of the community ambassadors for Assassin's Creed here in the UK, and I'm also the team leader for the ones that came before Assassin's Creed fan community. So massive thank you everyone for joining, and also for the birthday comments I had last week. That was the reason I wasn't here. I could briefly read the chat whilst I was at the Trafford Centre, which is like a big shopping complex in Manchester, but huge thank you for all the birthday messages, especially from Rick Bower, our guest. So the episode went ahead and it was led by my co-host James, who did a fantastic job. We were a bit late getting the episode up and running, but it's up tonight. I did it about 2 hours ago, so sorry about that, guys. And it's because Charlie, our editor, is actually also a TV film movie star. He's doing all the filming, he's also an extra in it, he's doing a ton of things behind the scenes, so he's very busy. But yeah, for sure there could be like a double drop this week, so we might get some special episodes out as well. We've got tons planned for the show, and especially as we get towards like 15 and 16, we're going to be doing lots of stuff behind the scenes here, so keep an eye out. We're going to be doing like clips and things and promoting the podcast and hopefully pushing it to a new audience. So massive thank you everyone for the birthday messages. And yeah, I'm feeling a bit rusty, to be honest. 2 weeks off. It's the first time I've not done this weekly. And I just wanted to start off by showing a few of my birthday presents. It's not a flex. It's just to show a few of the things I got that were like Assassin's Creed related. So this was a cool one off my wife. Spotify users, you won't be able to see this one, but I got an autumn candle, and she's used the Cricut machine to add on some Assassin's Creed stickers. And the candle is Autumn Hayride, so it smells of hay, and she's added the assassins jumping onto it, so I thought this was really cool. And then secondly, sort of Assassin's Creed Mirage vibe going on. She's got me like a sand changer. Ooh. So you sort of flex it at like different angles, and like the sand trickles down, and it just reminds me of Assassin's Creed Mirage. So like in the past, I would get like tons of presents relating to the game, but not so much these days. But my wife got really creative with this one. So thank you, Ashley, and massive thank you for everyone messaging. And I actually had some personal messages from people as well, which was really nice. And yeah, I really do appreciate it, guys. So yeah, going back to the rotation with James, that's going to be going from now on. We're going to be 1 week in, 1 week off. And this is because we are trying to boost it on James's platform, on my platform, but also because I'm going to be ending my time as a lead host in March, because we're having our second child. So I'll be stepping away from Rally the Creed, and James will become the permanent host. So great practice for him. And also we're going to be getting some team episodes up and running soon, so a few more people can get involved, and it will carry on. Hopefully we'll have built something great by then, maybe 30, 40 episodes before I have to step away. But yeah, really great to see James lead in an episode. So just a reminder, guys, any TikTok gifts that are given tonight supports the ones that came before. You know, you're supporting us with your donations that go towards the website hosting fees, the Wix fees. So we really appreciate it. And for anyone on Spotify, if you give us a rating, maybe a 5-star or maybe 4, or however you feel at the time, we really appreciate it. So today's episode, I'm really looking forward to this one. So I'm joined by UK Content Creator, and it's content I've been watching an awful lot of recently. I've been listening to a lot of. So it's an AC YouTuber with a flair for in-depth analysis and honesty, and that's something we value here. But he's also the host of the Podyssey, which is a really great Assassin's Creed podcast. And it's also something that unpacks in depth the lore of the series, where they're going right and wrong in the marketing. It's very analytical and it's very entertaining. So please welcome WillisMakesMovies, aka Lewis. Welcome to the show.
Wow, what an intro! That was amazing. Wow, I've watched a couple of previous episodes beforehand to get familiar with the format, and yeah, I was like, am I gonna get the big intro that everybody seems to get? Fantastic. Welcome. Thank you very much.
I've been really looking forward to this one, Lewis, because I mean, with the podcast as well, and also your own personal stuff, I think you've been killing it recently. You've been doing such a great job, really like in depth, and I would say like mind opening, like genuinely, like the content I've watched recently has made me look at Assassin's Creed in like a different perspective, a different take on things. I feel like you view the series in a way that maybe others don't. So it's a really unique perspective that you as a content creator give, and really valuable, I think. So it's great to have you on the show. And also I'm now a huge fan of the Podyssey. I started listening 3 months ago just after starting this series, and yeah, it's really great to have you on. So welcome aboard.
Oh, amazing. Oh, I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, like I say, you know, bringing something unique to the community. I feel like that's always the goal, isn't it? You don't just want to blend in with everyone else. You want maybe offer different perspectives and say the things that a lot of people aren't saying. But you know, me personally, I'm always thinking about little ideas and stuff that's been in my head forever just regarding the series. And it's always good either through the podcast or through personal, you know, the channel. Yeah, it's always great to express it and get the feelings out, you know. If I need to be sincere, I end up scripting it. But I have so much more fun doing the unscripted stuff because I really can just blurt out what I'm feeling in the moment. And I think it comes across to the people who are watching. They really enjoy the honesty, I think, as well, you know, not afraid to take Ubisoft down a peg if I feel like something's unfair.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's really great. And the videos I was watching earlier, a lot of them were unscripted. I was looking at your Mirage coverage. But before we get into the more recent stuff, I want to get into how you started Willis Makes Movies, when it begun. I mean, I've got a bit of an idea from listening to the Podyssey, but I'd love to hear like where it all started for you. I mean, you're based here in the UK. You're in Sunderland, is that right?
That's right. Yes, yeah, in the northeast.
And it's interesting because I'm actually from the northwest in Carlisle. So at one point when I lived there, we'll have been like shots from each other.
Yeah, I've got a friend who lives there.
Small world. I'm in Chester now, but yeah, at one point we would have been like straight across, not that far. It's only like an hour on a train or something. But yeah, tell me about Sunderland and like when content creation started for you, and if like the people around you helped bring it to life in terms of like support, your family network. Yeah, I want to know how you met the Exile, when, why you started the podcast. So take us on your journey with Willis Makes Movies. The username, where did that come from as well?
Yeah.
So yeah, interested to hear it.
Right. Oh, where to start? It's probably best to start with Assassin's Creed, I guess, because obviously that's where the channel sort of sprung from later down the line. But yeah, I've been doing YouTube since like 2015, but it's been, you know, I was only 14 years old. I've been doing skits and, you know, little jokey things. It was actually when the Xbox One came out, they had that Upload Studio feature and Game DVR where you could record 5 minutes of footage and then you could do a narration without any editing and upload that to YouTube. And I thought, oh, this is my opportunity, because I'd grown up watching like gaming videos, you know, a bit of Smosh and stuff like that, and I was very into YouTube. I'm still to this day, you know, I watch so many hours of YouTube, and you know, it's always been a passion. I've always wanted to do YouTube, you know, as a career, and yeah, it was pretty much like I would say the Assassin's Creed thing. With when I was younger, the channels that the videos that I was putting out were all over the place. You know, Call of Duty, this video, then I was doing like a Saints Row video, and then Minecraft. And you know, when you're a kid, you're not really thinking about what structure or what focus the channel should have. It was just whatever I could, you know, whatever I was playing at the time. But I did do the odd Assassin's Creed video, and I did a video back when Dead Kings came out, where I was just showing off the Napoleon outfit, but I was like, I think I must have been right on the money, because I was like one of the first people to unlock it and then make a video about it. And it got like over 1,000 views. And for me, that was incredible, because every other video I'd done barely passed 50. You know, it was nothing. You know, it was a nothing channel. So when that happened, it should have been a sign for me that I should be doing Assassin's Creed. But obviously, completely oblivious. I just thought, that's me, I'm successful now, and kept making loads of videos, and it never really took off. And eventually, like, I just grew out of that phase, and I just stopped that channel entirely. So you can't go back and find that now. It's all, unfortunately, it's all privated, hidden away, gone. But when I think I always wanted to give it another go and take it seriously, and I wanted to talk about movies. That was always my ambition. I always wanted to talk about movies, but I didn't have editing software. I didn't have any, you know, way of ripping footage, so I could never do the videos that I actually wanted to make. And in 2019, if you like scroll back on my channel and you go to oldest, you'll see for the first 3 years of the channel, I did movie video essays talking about movies that I liked. Yeah, you'll have to have a look. And some of they all did really well. Like all, you know, a couple of thousand views on some of them, and you know, it was successful. But the funny thing was, as much as I enjoyed scripting and editing and really getting into it, I ran out of films to talk about, which probably sounds silly, but I just genuinely got through everything I wanted to talk about. And so I was sitting there like a couple of, maybe it was like late 2019, and I was thinking, there's nothing I really want to talk about anymore. Like, so the channel kind of went cold. And then lockdown hit, and I said, for lockdown, I want to work on a big project. I want to make a YouTube video that's like over an hour long, because I'm really, I watch a lot of videos that are over an hour long, 3 hour long analysis, video essays on certain things. The longer the better for me, because then I can stick it on in the background and watch it for hours and not have to worry about, all I have to worry about is skipping an ad. I don't have to look for the next video. So I did, I scripted out a full hour and a half long video essay on Ezio and why he is the character that everybody remembers from the Assassin's Creed series above all others. And I sort of went in with the thesis of, is it just because he's had more entries in the series? Has he had more appearances? Or is it, other factors that play into him, like the writing, the presentation, things like that? And that video did terribly, completely flopped. But over time, I obviously wanted to try and recreate that magic because I thought that was one of my best videos. And I think what happened was I did a follow-up video talking about Edward, and that was more of a comparison between him and Eivor and how they work, because they're basically a very similar premise of, it's an Assassin's Creed game where you're not playing as an assassin until maybe the very end. And that one did really well. And that led to the Ezio one doing really well. And suddenly everybody discovered it. And I thought, this is it now. I need to focus on Assassin's Creed because that is a franchise that I've grown up with since I was like 9 years old when I got Brotherhood. That was my first Assassin's Creed game, was Brotherhood. And I fell in love with it just from hearing about it on the playground. Genuinely, just from kids going, like running around with hidden blades in the play yard. Not literally, but just play fighting and pretending they were in the game. And I was like, what are you guys miming? What is this? And that's sort of where I began with Assassin's Creed. And it's a franchise, I buy every entry at release. I was really into it up until probably like Odyssey was the first game that I skipped, which probably says a lot. But yeah, and then I focused my YouTube channel on Assassin's Creed, and it was sparse uploads. It was like every 2 months I would upload a video essay on a certain character because I wanted it to be really high quality and over an hour long. I wanted to go through the entire game, comb through it, and pick out the scenes that make that character really stand out. And those videos to this day are still my most popular. They gain the most views over time and stuff like that. But then I thought, you know what? I can do stuff in between. Let's just go all out. Let's just do little videos and try and upload more regularly. And I don't know how it happened. It has just sort of been naturally following the curve of what was successful for me. And that's just led to where I am now. And obviously the podcast was an opportunity that came along. I can't remember. Well, we've been doing it for a year now, coming up to a year. So it's probably maybe 2 years ago that the idea first sort of came about when the Hidden One, obviously another Assassin's Creed YouTuber, massive following, asked me to collaborate on his Origins outfits video. He was ranking all of the Origins outfits, and he wanted me to give my top 5 and just write a quick script. And I was like, yeah, go on then. This might get me a little bit of attention. And I ended up getting like 200 subscribers from that.
Oh, wow.
Which was when I was like, okay, I wasn't expecting that kind of reception. And one of the other YouTubers who was on that video was the Exile. And I'd never heard of him. Not a clue. Didn't know who this guy was. And I can't remember if I reached out to him or he reached out to me. But eventually we got talking, and I knew that I wanted to start a podcast because I've never, gotten a podcast off the ground, but it's something that I've always wanted to have going in the background. He felt similar, and he put out a post asking if anybody else was interested in being, on his podcast. And I was sort of the only person who responded, I think, by the sounds of it. And that was really what cemented, we need to make this thing happen. And then the Podyssey started maybe 3 months later. We took forever trying to get the logo sorted. The branding took longer than like any of these episodes have taken. That was a nightmare. But yeah, and then that's where we're at. That's where we're at now. Episode 39 coming up this week, hopefully.
That's fantastic. That's really interesting, especially with the Assassin's Creed experiences at school. I don't remember anything like that. People were all playing like Call of Duty or FIFA where I'm from. So there was no real like discussion. None of my friends played Assassin's Creed or anything. But it's really cool to hear that you had that, and the assassin fantasy was obviously still a thing. And that's really cool to hear and see. Obviously, to this day, kids wouldn't know really what an assassin is. So it's nice to hear you had that.
It was great. It was like I was expecting everybody to be running around with pretend guns and stuff. So when I saw them like using like swords, you can see them doing sword fighting. I was like, what's going on here? And I was asking like, what are you guys playing? And they were like, oh, it's Assassin's Creed. And I was like, well, I don't know what that means. I didn't even know what the word assassin meant. I thought it was like saying arse. They were just swearing or something. So, and they told me, I specifically remember this memory. I was like, what do they use? Do they have anything that can kill people like better than the others? Because as a kid, you want to be the best one, playing the game. And they were like, oh, they have a hidden gun. So I remember just going bang, 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 like round the whole schoolyard, thinking that, it didn't take... I didn't play the games until like maybe 6 months after knowing about the franchise.
That's
so
cool.
I thought the hidden gun was like an assault rifle or something. So I thought that's how it worked. And that was probably around the time that Revelations was coming out, because I do remember a lot of hook and run attempts from some of the kids that didn't work out. But I bought Brotherhood when Revelations came out, because Brotherhood was the only one where I'd went around my friend's house and watched him play it. And I felt comfortable, like I know what this game looks like. I want to play this one. I don't want to play Revelations. I want to play this one. Which was funny because that led to me having a bias against Revelations for so long, until like the Ezio collection came out, I think. It was interesting, definitely, to see that.
Definitely. And in terms of like content creation, I wanted to know if like you've had like support from like an early age, or your parents on board with the decision to become I try not to use the word YouTuber because it's a lot more than that. It's like script writing, there's obviously narration, there's video editing, like it is like a serious profession. And obviously you've got a job alongside that as well. So I was wondering like how your family have been, how your girlfriend's been, like are they supportive about it? Because it can be incredibly time consuming.
Oh, it can be, and it is. It is absolutely. I'd say I spend 4 or 5 hours a day, really.
Wow.
Like when I'm motivated, I'll spend a long time doing it. I'd say my parents have been very supportive of it, probably because they don't quite understand what I'm doing. Like, as much as I've tried to explain it, they still don't get how it's like, I guess, monetizable, or, sometimes I'll tell them, I'm like, oh, look how much I made this month. And they're like, what? How's that possible? And I'm like, ads, And I work in marketing, so I feel like I can do a good job of getting them to understand it. But they've never been, they've been cautious about, putting my face online, speaking to people that I don't know. They're like, oh, who are these people commenting? Do you know any of them? I'm like, that's not how it works. That's not how it works. But they've been very supportive, I think. They've never talked me down from it. They've never said that it's something that I shouldn't be doing or that it's a waste of time. Because, like I say, I've always prioritized having a full-time job, being in employment, so that I can have the excuse as to why I do the fun stuff on the side. And I think even if YouTube was making enough to quit a full-time job, I think I would still have a full-time job, because I think you need that security. You need that sort of routine as well. I'm a person where if my routine slips, I'm done for. 4 a.m. going to sleep, waking up at 4 p.m. and that's a terrible sort of for your health. That I think that's terrible, and that is a situation that I was in, especially in lockdown. Because I'm writing this script about Ezio, and I'm watching the cutscene movie, I'm replaying all the games, and I'm spending like I would stay up until like the script was done. And, or at least, if I'm talking about AC2, I'm going to stay up until I've got that section done, which meant a lot of late nights, stupidly late nights, which was probably not healthy. But yeah, and my girlfriend's been really supportive. I mean, they play. I have done a very good job of persuading Eve to play some of the Assassin's Creed games. It was a tough journey. It was a tough, trying to convince. But we watched Hamilton on Disney Plus, and I thought, this is my chance. This is my opportunity. I absolutely jumped at it, and I was like, "Did you know there's an Assassin's Creed game set exactly at this time?"
Brilliant.
And so we played through Assassin's Creed 3, and I got a thumbs up. That was good. And then I've slowly tried to I don't think Origins was a winner. I don't think Black Flag was a winner, surprisingly. Which, I don't know, for me, I'm like, what? How can you not like Black Flag? But I find that quite fun, seeing a different perspective on Assassin's Creed, because I'm sort of blindly loyal to, those older games. So when you see somebody playing them now who never knew that they existed, you do get a really different perspective, I think, especially compared to like an Origins and an Odyssey, where, different accessibilities, a different demographic, I would say. It's very interesting. I noticed we're getting a lot of comments. I don't know if we should be reading these out.
Yeah, well, I've looked at that. Thanks for all the comments, guys. Appreciate it. I am taking them in. I'm just trying to sort of sieve through the more relevant ones. James is obviously not a fan of Black Flag, so we've covered that quite a few times. And he said, if you like. Podge says, I wonder what AC Lost Legacy could have looked like on 3DS. I actually don't know.
That's an interesting one,
yeah. And we had Podge also said, the only revelation I got from AC Revelations is that it was going to be a 3DS game. That is interesting, to be fair. And then they expanded the script, I imagine. It was Derby, right?
Yes, yeah, that was Derby's first step into it.
That's fantastic. Going back to your content creation and the Podyssey, I think one thing that separates Rally the Creed and the Podyssey is, well, for a start, the impressions. I think there's a lot of impressions from you guys and like voices, and they are really funny. I've never done that on stream, but yeah, you guys really get into it with the voices. Obviously, everyone knows Harrison and his TikTok voice. It makes
my goodness me, the Shorts voice. Wow.
The Shorts voice.
Yeah. It's great to hear that his actual voice doesn't sound like that, especially from me watching him as a YouTuber back when he was shouting in every video. I was like, how can I do a podcast with this guy? Is he going to be so high energy, like, compared to me? And then I heard him and I was like, oh, he just sounds like a normal guy. Like, and he still does his Shorts voice, and I will still take the mick out of it. Because the way he goes like, Mirage, I see two. It's like, I know he does it on purpose, but it's still, he still gets comments of people hating it, and I just think that's really funny.
It is good, and because I'm listening to the Podyssey episodes backwards, I'm sort of I was saying in the pre-show that it's sort of like you guys are going from like your experience now with Shadows to like going back, and you're so positive before it launches. And like as I'm listening, I'm like, guys, I wish I could tell you about the narrative, but yeah, I've just listened to the one. I think it's like episode 14 or 15, so probably a similar point to where we're at with this one. But yeah, you guys were doing a Dragon's Den episode, and there was all sorts of accents going on. There was a Donald Trump impression, which we're not going to be airing on this show, but there was probably for the best.
I remember when that episode finished. When we finished filming that episode, he went, "What did we just do? What did we just do for the last 2 hours?" He was like, "I think we might have to scrap that whole episode, because like, what was that? Like, it totally went out of hand." Because I remember the synopsis for the episode was going to be pitching bad Assassin's Creed games.
Yeah. And
I didn't know what he meant by that, really. And then he said, "Oh, I'm going to get a Dragon's Den thing." And I was like, "Oh, what?" So I just took it as like, "Oh, we're going to be pretending we're on Dragon's Den." And I don't think he quite, like, I don't think he realized how far I was going to take it. And by the time we were both doing the impressions, I think that episode just went so far away from what it should have been. But that was quite fun, you know. I think that was the fun of it.
Something a bit different.
Yeah. And I don't know if we'd do that again, but I'm glad that we did it the once.
Yeah. And then that brings me to another sort of format the Podyssey's done, and that was one live episode. So I was wondering if you guys have considered doing that again.
We have. That live episode was surprisingly quite straightforward. The problem is the way that we record the podcast, it's honestly, the record time is usually like 4 hours long in order to cut it down. And we just record at awkward times. And we also think that for it to be live, it would need to be something special, a big announcement to justify having, you know, to respond to people and having like that engagement level. So we're kind of waiting for, you know, a Black Flag announcement. That would absolutely be a live episode because of how big the news would be for that. And you'd want people to be there, you know, looking at it and responding live. Whereas I think just with our normal episode format, we just chat. It's just a phone call, really, that happens to stick to the topic sometimes.
Sometimes. And that actually is a good point, because even though the Podyssey is an Assassin's Creed podcast, I'd say maybe like 60% of it is like just general, like what you've been up to. It's cinema, games, so it is like a broad spectrum. But the great thing is when I'm in work, I've got like 8 hours to kill, so I'm more than happy to cut through it. Where I know you guys put timestamps. I was speaking to Harrison about this. It's because if people want to jump just to the AC stuff, they can quickly whiz through.
Absolutely. Yeah. If people don't want to hear us ramble about nonsense, like if they don't care how our weekend was, we just like, you know, skip to the Assassin's Creed stuff. And to be fair, some people do that, but not as many as you would think. There is quite a lot of people who are happy to listen to the strange ramblings that we get up to. But you know, we do try and have like at least a general idea going into the episode. This is everything that we're going to cover. But in some cases, you know, especially I think for Harrison, his connection to Shadows, Mirage is pretty much non-existent at this point. Yeah. They are far divorced from each other. So for him to talk about, for example, like the episode we recorded, we only recorded it yesterday because of how delayed we were. We did an episode talking about Valley of Memory and talking about the cancelled AC game, and we didn't really talk about it much, just because I can tell that he's not comfortable. Really, he doesn't care. He genuinely just doesn't care anymore, and he would rather talk about the Assassin's Creed stuff that he likes, which I can totally understand. I think because I'm probably more of the let's make it informative, let's, you know, cover the topic and analyze it and really get into it. And I think he enjoys more of the fun, chill, relax, like let's look at Instagram reels and stuff like that and react to some funny stuff.
Yeah.
I think that is why we work well, because we're very opposed.
It's a good mix. It's all about balance, isn't it? And you guys definitely bring that.
Yeah, I hope so. Thank you. I hope that's the case. Yeah.
And I think as well, there's a bit of a north and south divide at times. Like sometimes, like you'll say something, and I can tell he's not quite understanding because it's like northern jargon going on. It is funny.
I think I said Raji once. Yeah. Not a clue. He asked me afterwards. He was like, "What was that word that you said, Raji?" I was like, no, that's not it. It was even funnier when we met up in person, because obviously.
I was gonna say, that was really cool, wasn't it?
We are about 5.5 hours away from each other. Yeah. So to meet in person was quite strange. I was worried.
Time working together, you know, obviously you've done all these podcasts together. You've done all the behind the scenes prep. Like you're probably on call all the time, but to actually meet someone after all that time, I bet that was surreal.
I was very nervous, you know. Yeah. I went down the day before, and I was like, God, what if I don't actually get on with him in person? Because you never know. It could be a totally different dynamic in person. And obviously, you'll know about our beef,
Yes.
our diss tracks.
We'll definitely be getting to that soon.
Part of his, part of that was obviously on one occasion on a night out. I messaged him and I went, "What if we're really different heights? What if you're like really tall and I'm really small and it just looks funny in person?
Right.
Is that gonna like change the dynamic of everything?" And then he obviously incorporated that into his diss track album.
Yeah.
All about how small I am. And then we met up in person, and it's so annoying because we never got a photo. We never got a photo standing next to each other. But when he opened that door, I went, "Oh, thank God. We're about the same height."
Normal height.
About the same. He's taller than me, but only by a little bit. But that's the sort of thing you never think about. You never think about that when you're on a podcast with someone. I never thought like...
Because you're always sat down on a podcast, right? So he could have been like 7 foot and you like 5 foot because he sat down all the time.
And what was really cool was we were sat in a cafe. We were just having... it was actually a games cafe, so we were playing a game of Scrabble. And he turns to me and he goes, "I've never seen the back of your head." That's what the back of your head looks like. And I'm like, "Oh, that's so weird to only see someone from this angle."
Yeah.
And then to see the side and the back, it really is really strange in person.
3D.
I see we've got a WillisMakesMovies in there. That is someone who's just dedicated to the diss track.
That brings us nicely into the next section, which is music and diss tracks. So I wanted to get into that because I was actually listening to an episode recently of the Podyssey where you did your original diss tracks, and then also Harrison with his cousin as well, I believe it is. And yeah, it's like how that was about, and the diss track beef. WillisMakesMovies. I nearly did the intro with that, but I wasn't sure if it was too like neat a joke for people to get.
Oh, you could have definitely not. I don't take it seriously, and we're very careful. You know, we say beforehand like, well, he tells me, "Look, you can say anything," but obviously we don't want to like actually annoy each other by doing it. Yeah. It's been so long. I really do need to respond to that because he dropped a whole EP, and I haven't responded to it.
There was really definitely some toilet humour on the EP, I remember, and some other bits.
Yeah, it was so wretched. And then he even had a song in person when I went down in person.
Really?
He surprised me with another song, and I was like, "Oh man," because he does this for fun. You know, he really likes music, making music with his cousin, and for me, it was just something that I did with my friends years ago, 7-8 years ago, and I've never touched it since because I knew I was terrible at it. I was doing it for fun. And then obviously me mentioning that has brought it all up, and I'm like, "Oh great, now I need to keep doing it." And I don't mind, but I don't know, I would it is still a bit of fun, and it's nice to have those light-hearted storylines, I guess, on the podcast because people keep tuning in to see, you know, what we're up to.
Yeah, and I did enjoy your like Wild West song about Harrison. The Exiled.
That was
Again, that brings me back to like the accents and all the impersonations that go on the show. So it went hand in hand nicely with that.
I suppose it did. Yeah, I don't really think about it, but I've done impressions. I was one of those kids doing the school performances. You know, I've played Anne Robinson in like a school performance. I played Simon Cowell. Yeah, I never like took acting or performing arts seriously, really. But you know, I always like to have a bit of fun, do a couple of impersonations. I've always wanted to do voice acting, and I feel like, especially with some Assassin's Creed characters, I can do quite a good impression. So I try to pitch it out there as much as I can.
That's good. And I guess going back to like Assassin's Creed characters, I was wondering about your like relationship with Ubisoft and like how that's developed over the years, and sort of like where you stand with Ubisoft. Like, because we've never met at in-person events together, but I was wondering if maybe you're at a level now where you think you could potentially get invited to more UK events.
I would love to. I mean, as long as I'm still allowed to be me and be honest, And, I don't, because I've heard a lot recently about that whole Black Ops 7 drama with the in-person events. They give them like lists of things that they couldn't say.
Oh, wow.
And I gather that Activision aren't very good at handling influencers and creators. And they were, for example, the multiplayer guys, they were allowed to spend like 4 hours on the game. Whereas the zombies guys were only given like half an hour, and you had to stop if you got so far, and you weren't allowed to go to the toilet, and all this like terrible, terrible stuff. But as long as I could still say it was bad, if it was bad, as long as I could play Shadows and go, yeah, that was mediocre. Of course, I would love to be a part of it, and it's exciting because it is like feeling like you're part of the community again, like getting to meet people like yourself and other creators out there, and I would love to be a part of that, to be considered up there with everyone else, which is still a bit surreal for me. I still don't feel maybe the status that I've got, but yeah, it's if we're talking about maybe Ubisoft creatively, I think I've got very strong opinions on that. But in terms of working with them, I don't know. I didn't get a review code for Shadows.
No.
But I feel like with, let's say, whatever's next, maybe it's a Black Flag remake, I feel like I would ask them for a code to see if they get in touch with me. Who knows, I would love to, yeah, absolutely.
It's definitely worth like attempting to build bridges, even getting in touch with the community team and get the ball rolling. I mean, you're a UK content creator, they run events every year. I mean, thinking back to, I went to one in January with Andy Reloads and a couple other UK content creators, and that was like the launch event for Shadows. Several other things around the world. I'm under NDA for a few of them, but like trying to think, Germany I can talk about in 2016. Just to give an idea of like these events are happening. It'd be great to have you at some of them because, like I said, you're really like you expand people's knowledge on the series, really analytical and a different perspective from usual. And going back to what you said as well about Ubisoft monitoring things, they've never done that for me. Like whenever I've gone to an event, honesty has been what they respect. And to be honest, I'm a very brutally honest person. Like I'm not what you'd call like a shill at all. Like for sure, like if I think something, I'll say it. And like I've been to like events saying like I don't like this to the developers. So it's like they take notes like when I speak, for example. So it's almost like they respect a bit more honesty over people who are like, yeah, that's great, because they're getting more out of it. So for sure, never change. And I think that's great that you've got this honest approach in your content.
Yeah, I mean, that's good to hear for me, to hear that Ubisoft are open to... I mean, the things we've seen with Mirage recently tell me that, yeah, like, to some extent, they are open to hearing, they do the Reddit AMAs, whether they take on board what's said in those or not is a different matter, but, they do host them. They are happy to feed back to the community. They like shouting out smaller creators, even Ropatopoulos. I remember when he was really... he only had a couple of thousand subscribers and he got a shout out showing off his Mirage parkour, and now he's one of the leading sort of drives towards the restoring parkour in the series. And they do listen. That's nice.
Fantastic. Well, we'll definitely try and build some bridges there, and that would be really great to hopefully meet you at some UK events. But I wanted to go back to content creation, even like before your journey with the Exile, because it's amazing we didn't meet through the Lasers community, because I believe you and Harrison were also involved in that. And like the YouTube comments in Lasers, and also like his general, like, how do I describe it? Like not friendship circle, because it's more like in the comments, but being part of that community. Am I right in thinking you guys were in there as well?
Well, I don't really comment on videos.
Okay.
I don't know why. I've never really felt a need to comment too much. I only really do it with other creators, just to say I'm here and stuff like that, and say what good job they've done. But yeah, I used to watch Lasers as a kid, and I definitely like grew up in that community with him. I used to watch his podcast, the As Always one, not the Kill Connor one. I was not a fan of that because I like Connor. Don't like that name. Got a bone to pick with him. But I mean, I know Fishy watches the podcast now, and that's surreal. Lasers even shouted me out on one of his live streams. That was mind blowing. mind blowing. I couldn't believe, of all people, he was talking about me. I was like, hey, what do you mean? Why? But yeah, it is funny. I feel like I did keep my head down for a long time, and it's only really, I would say, on the build up to Shadows, when I started uploading regularly and not just every couple of months, that people started to sort of recognize me and start to see me. Whereas there are a lot of people who I feel do 1 to 2 hour long video essays and then disappear and come back, and they're not really part of a community. They're just doing their own little thing. But since I started covering it like more news and frequent uploads, I feel like that's helped to, expand into it and meet other people. So I feel like, although I'm a bit behind, I'm meeting everyone now, and that's great,
That's really good. And in terms of like you being part of the community as well, the way I discovered the Podyssey wasn't actually through the podcast itself with like YouTube or Spotify. It was actually through clips on TikTok. So that was how I originally came across it. And it was when we were doing the blood cancer drive. So we were raising money for a charity which raises funds for Hodgkin's lymphoma and other cancers as well. So it was all relating to blood cancer, really nasty ones. And we were bringing the community together. And then I came across a clip on TikTok, which was like part gameplay, part of the Podyssey like discussion, which was like a video. So I actually thought it was like a live stream. Like it looked to me like you guys were like streamers. So I sent an email across, and then me and Harrison sort of went back and forth a few times, giving some more information. And that was like how I first like got in touch with the Podyssey and how my relationship with that podcast started. And I guess really as well, I didn't really listen to podcasts until I got moved into the new position in work, and then obviously got myself some headphones. And then when I wrote into the Podyssey recently, I said that I stumbled across it. And the way that happened was I was doing some research for an episode of this show, and that was with Let's Talk Assassin's Creed, which is another Assassin's Creed podcast run by Declan Rose, who we've had on the show. And then it came up as, you may also like the Podyssey. And I was like, oh, that's cool. So it is like a pod. Obviously, the name should have given it away for me, really. But yeah, I was like, oh, right, cool. So it's not just like live streams, which I thought from that clip. It is actually like a structured podcast. So I was like, right, I'm going to listen to the most recent. And that's why I'm working my way backwards, because I started with like episode maybe 30 or something. And then I think releases maybe like slightly delayed on Spotify as well. We're the same. And now I'm like
very, very delayed, because that's my job. I upload to Spotify in bulk when I remember. But Harrison does the shorts, so I'll have to feed back to him. Don't make it look like a live stream.
Yeah, so that's how I discovered it, because I realised that when we did the crossover recently, we were discussing the pitching an Assassin's Creed game, and I'd written that I stumbled upon it. Obviously, I was aware of it, but I literally did stumble upon the Spotify version, and that was how I came across it.
Oh, no. I'm so sorry to hear that.
So yeah, and I mean, for YouTube, I've never really considered like YouTube, like watching it for podcasts. Like obviously, it's always been like an in-ear Spotify thing. So, but yeah, for this show, I mean, we're sort of across all the platforms now, because Rally the Creed Live, it airs on TikTok, and then it's on YouTube when it's edited, and then Spotify. So we're sort of everywhere as well in terms of like our output, and then we're doing the shorts as well. So yeah, it's sort of an interesting dynamic. And you guys have tried the live format, and like you said before, like it's quite hard to keep up with all the comments, but for us it was a way of like resurrecting the podcast, because we actually started Rally the Creed in like 2020, but it wasn't really going anywhere. I was always like a guest on it rather than like hosting. I'd never considered podcast hosting before. Like I just sort of brought like my Assassin's Creed like lore expertise, because I'm like the lore guy. You guys are always like, that's me. For sure. That's me. So like, I come and bring like expertise on the lore normally, and like sort of like the perspective from like a brand ambassador sort of thing, like events and stuff, give that perspective on it. But then yeah, it's interesting though, because then it died off. We didn't have the consistency with COVID and everything, and then we tried to resurrect it with like different hosts per different countries. So obviously the ones that came before was a huge team of people. There's 27 of us. You can probably see the chart behind me there. That's all my team members. The huge expansive team. So the idea was to have one host in America, one in the UK, one in Denmark, and there was 4 of us in the end. And in the end, that just became too much. So it was like people would either not be able to get an episode out, so then we'd all fall behind in terms of like numbers and things. You know, like it wouldn't be episode 12 all of a sudden; it would be episode 11 because episode 12 hadn't released. There was all sorts of problems with it. So it just didn't work in the end. So this is like our third reincarnation of this podcast. And this is because I just wanted to have a space for Assassin's Creed fans to sort of give a behind the scenes perspective on things, have more of a look at content creation and also the challenges that people face. So we've been quite open on this show. You know, we've gone quite a lot into mental health and things, challenges people face, burnout. That's a big one we like to discuss on this one. And I was wondering if maybe burnout is something you faced yourself, because I know Harrison has really gone through it this year in terms of burnout.
He has.
He's able to come out the other side, an Assassin's Creed fan, really. I mean, obviously, he'd always loved the older games, but like you said before, not so much caring about the more recent releases because burnout really has taken a grip on that case. But I was wondering how you feel about it.
Yeah, I mean, just to speak quickly about Harrison, I know he's obviously had a very rough year, really, with Assassin's Creed. I think Shadows really broke him. And it was a bit of I know he was in a bad place personally when that happened as well. So it was just a bad storm. Yeah, he was totally out of Assassin's Creed for a good few months where he just didn't want to talk about it, play it, you know, anything like that. And it's took, I think he started playing Assassin's Creed 2 and that's what took bringing him back into the fold. But he's got so much on his plate now. He's got the Shorts channel. He's got a long-form video, the Exile Live. The Exile Player's Pad is where he puts his creative, he really, you know, high-edited videos, but only, very sparse uploads. He only uploads when it's good, ready, finished. He doesn't rush anything out. And then obviously he's got a podcast. So he's got like 4 channels that he's micromanaging as well. And for me, it's just my channel and the podcast. And with the podcast, I like the frequency of it. I like the way I know it used to be Tuesday. Every Tuesday, I know we're going to record the podcast and then I get it out by the Sunday. And that was a good rotation. And because there's 2 of you, I feel like it helps you to be motivated, because if he's not motivated, I'll tell him, we got to hop on now, you know? We're not cancelling the episode. Like, come on in an hour, we'll do it. You know, we'll make it a short one, but we'll get it out. And we don't have to talk about Assassin's Creed all the time, don't worry. I mean, when the Oblivion Remaster remake came out, we didn't talk about Assassin's Creed that whole episode.
Right.
Which is more fun for him because of the thumbnails. He has to make the thumbnails look Assassin's Creed related, however he can. But for me, I feel like I do go through phases of having loads of ideas, and in my phone I'll write down video ideas. I'm going to talk about, you know, this in Assassin's Creed 3, this in Mirage, and, you know, I'll write a whole list of ideas. And then what I find is I want to get them all done. So I'll sit there and I'll try and film 9 videos in one go. And I'm like, what am I doing? That's stupid. I've never done that. I've never been able to do that. I had a good thing going last month where I was able to record 3 videos on the weekend and then release them throughout the week. Edit them, release them throughout the week. But that became crazy. And I think right now I am just coming out of a bit of a burnout where I've done 2 weeks where I just couldn't think of any ideas. And I was even looking at the list of ideas that I had written down going, can I talk about that now? Because the majority of my stuff is unscripted now. So It's like, if I'm not in a place where I can talk about it confidently, I'm just going to be sat on it going, and I mean, I have just scrapped a video recently because I just watched it back and went, what am I on about here? What am I talking about? This is just, it's random. And I'll tell you exactly what it is. It was one of the Assassin's Creed 3 multiplayer maps. I was like, this is really cool and nobody's talking about it. So I recorded a whole video talking about how cool this map was. And then I just watched it back and went, people just load into the map, go, yeah, that's pretty cool, a concept. The map is half of New York, but then as you travel outwards, it's the Animus. So it's all like de-rendered, just blocks and shapes. And I recorded a whole video talking about how great this map is. But if you were to just drop into it, not really like much to talk about. And I just felt like I was rambling on and you know, going a bit too deep into something that is at the end of the day just a multiplayer map that nobody can play anymore. So it's, you know, it's delisted anyway. So what's the point?
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, especially I think when I was doing, because the way I got popular is my character studies on the Assassin's Creed characters, which are all like over an hour long, like I said, dissecting particular scenes, and the burnout on that was crazy because it took 1 to 2 months to get a video done, and when it was done, I didn't want to touch it ever again. So it would take me another 3 months to actually start doing the next one. So that, and I recognized like the videos are great, but they're just not working. This format isn't working. It's not getting me more subscribers. I need to, you know, start being a bit more regular. And the scripting process for me is a big one. If I start, I mean, I've got half of a narrative critique of Assassin's Creed Shadows written, and it's like 8,000 words, and I just can't be bothered to go back to it because it's like I know it's going to be such a huge task, but with the unscripted stuff, it's like I sit down for 20 minutes, just yap about something on my mind, and I've got notes on my screen that I refer to and stuff, but I can just yap for a bit, get that out, and people seem to really like it unscripted. And for a long time, I was thinking, am I being really lazy because I'm unscripting it? Am I being lazy? Am I not putting more, you know, could I word this better? And I put out a poll even saying, guys, are you happy with what I'm doing right now? Or is it not, you know, is this slop? Because that's how I refer to it to Harrison. I'm like, I've just recorded a bit of slop content to go out. But I feel like that is really, it is really, because, you know, it's something that's on my mind, but it's not like I'm going really too deep into it. It's more just like a thought that I've had. For example, I made a video just talking about how I thought Mirage's cinematic trailer told the story better than the actual game did.
I watched that today, and I thought that was excellent, by the way. Like, I thought it was a really brilliant video, and a lot of that was unscripted.
Oh, all of it?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I could tell like, the way you were delivering it, it was just pure honesty, and I thought that was an excellent video, and I fully agree with you on that one, by the way. Like, the trailer was...
There will be a follow-up for Shadows, don't you worry. I'm going to do a follow-up talking about Shadows as cinematic trailer, because that was also a travesty. I mean, do it for all of them.
Back to your formula, I feel like the unscripted ones are really working for you, because I watched 4 of your videos today and listened to a Podyssey, because I have to walk to work, so it's a 45-minute walk, so I managed to get a few videos in, watch them on my break, so I've consumed a lot of Willis Makes Movies today. Yeah, I mean, I watched 3 of them, and one of them was the new
channel, which for the most recent one,
Tencent subsidiary that they're doing, you know, the merger. Watch that one you did. Yeah. The Mirage, how the trailer told the story better. I watched another 2 as well. I was really getting through them earlier. This is about 8 a.m. this morning.
Did you watch the narrative critique of Claws of Awaji? That's a video I'm really proud of.
I got about halfway through it. For reasons I'll get into a bit later, I've watched about 50% of that one, and I've put it in my watch later folder.
Oh, amazing.
Coming back to circling back. But yeah, for sure. I mean, I really like the unscripted stuff, and I liked a lot of the parallels in the Mirage video as well to how him fighting with Roshan in like the Alamut Castle sort of reflects at the end. And it's sort of like at the end of the trailer, you can see like a different kind of like a assault, and you can see the fury in Basim's face.
Yeah,
as well.
There's a hunger in there. There's a hunger, right. Definitely.
Even like the start of your video on that one, Lewis, with like the snake and how Loki isn't really represented until the very end of the game. Like, I thought it was a really great video, and like you say, a lot like the majority of your videos now are like the unscripted, and yeah, I feel like it's really working for you. I wouldn't call that slop at all.
Oh, well, thank you. It is totally based on, like I say, how I'm feeling on the day, I think. Like I say, I haven't had to scrap many videos, but there are some where I record 2 or 3 minutes and I go, it's just not working. It's just not working. And like, I know videos that I have written down where I'm like, I'll get to that one, you know. For example, one of them is like, I want to talk about the missed potential of having Hatham in Rogue. I feel like having Hatham there is great, but he doesn't do anything, and he doesn't influence the story, and he doesn't have an impact. And that's such a shame, because you've got
fan
Hatham there.
service.
Yeah, literally, you've got opportunity. And that really gets me, you can tell, I get really driven about it, because, some days I'll look at that and I'll go, well, what could they do with Hatham? And then some days I'll go, that's what they could do. Hit record, go for it. But yeah, just for me, in terms of burnout, it is always just making sure you've got something written down and something to work towards. Like, I know when I'm in the mood, this is what I'm going to do the video on. And knowing that there's always something next. Because if I sit there and I look at my notes and there's nothing there, I am probably going to just go blank and not make a video for 2 weeks, which is what happened last 2 weeks. I mean, in the last 2 weeks, I've uploaded twice. Which, for me, where I'm at the minute, that's quite low, I would say.
Yeah, and with that, I think I've actually watched the last 2 releases. I'm trying to watch as many as I can. And like I said in my intro, really like thought-provoking, like interesting stuff, like things people don't talk about. I feel like you are that voice of reason, but also at the same time, like analytical critique. Like, I wouldn't say you're a critic, but it is sort of like done in a way that is like useful feedback. So like if a developer was watching, they would gain a lot from watching it. And I feel like as an audience of Assassin's Creed, like maybe like for us, the series is like looking a certain way now compared to what it was in the past. But sometimes it's like so eye-opening to like watch your videos or listen to the Podyssey. And this is what I really respect about it, like the honesty level that we mentioned before. But yeah, I think you're doing a great job, and you've really got on the radar in terms of like maybe you found that your groove and your stride in like the last 6 months. But I feel like you're heading in the right direction. Are you nearly at 10,000 on YouTube now? You're pushing towards that.
Yeah, that's the goal by the end of the year, hopefully. Yeah, we're nearly there. Yeah, I have been recognised by Ubisoft once. I've just totally remembered. When the Rufino questline came out for AC Shadows, I got an Instagram DM from, I can't remember who it was, but it was one of the guys who you see in the videos. And then Simon, obviously, I think everybody knows Simon now. He also commented on the video, because I will look. Shadows has a lot of bad, but when it does something good, I'm going to acknowledge that. And I thought the Rufino quest line with the guy from what they called the role playing.
Oh, we were talking about that recently. It was like a collaboration, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I can't remember either.
I can't remember their name.
I can't remember what they're called either. Guys in the comments, help us out.
Yeah, if anyone remembers.
Yeah, I was
in 3 words.
Critical Role. Thank you, James.
Critical Role, that's the one, yes. So, I thought that the writing on that was so much better than the main game. I thought they actually did have something going on there. Like, he's an ex-Templar who feels bad about killing his friends. Perfect. Great. Yeah. Good concept. They executed it well enough. And the Rufino's voice actor, which is funny because it's the guy from Critical Role, is doing such a better job than anybody else in the cast. He's really getting across a good performance. And Ubisoft, those two guys commented on my video. They DM'd me saying, we're really glad that you were able to acknowledge what we were going for and that we actually achieved the sort of things that we were aiming for there. I was like, oh, I'm onto something, I did actually get that right. It wasn't just, me, because I do sometimes worry about that. I'm like, am I coming up with deeper themes that aren't there? But it's nice to hear that this is stuff that they're thinking about and it is getting, put into the work. And
yeah, I mean, I fully agree with you on that. I mean, we did an episode with Ironside George recently where I had just completed. I mean, I'm pretty late to Shadows. I had a bit of a break from it where I was playing Oblivion Remastered and other games. So similar to what you guys are doing. So I did the exact same thing. I pivoted away from AC Shadows and was playing that and have now been brought back by the DLC. But yeah, I mean, some very strong voice acting going on, even like the quest lines to unlock him. Hopefully we get some more like collaborations like that in the future, because I really enjoyed taking out all the targets. And then you get to the final and it's like, there's like a big standoff, isn't there, in like the courtyard that's going on. and then his friend gets shot. I mean, we can talk about spoilers here for sure. I mean, because you have to have completed AC Shadows before you can even touch the DLC. So I mean, the friend gets shot, and it's like it's this really moving moment, and like you say, the voice acting's excellent. So it does like become some of the most memorable bits of AC Shadows, and that actually ties in nicely to the next section of the podcast today, where I've written where the Podyssey was right. And you'll like this. I've been taking
right about something. What were you right
I've been taking notes. So I think you'll actually appreciate this. And I'm not 100% if some of these ideas were Harrison's as well. They probably were. It could be collaborative efforts, some of them. But I've written down a lot of things here I'd like to get into. Because I've probably listened to about 15 episodes in the last 3 months or so, maybe more. But some of them are like 2-3 hours long. So like, probably days worth.
The one coming out next week or in the next couple of days, that's 3 hours. That's 3 hours. That's a long one. Yeah.
I've listened to a lot of the Podyssey over the last few months. So first of all, one thing that I didn't realise, I've fallen into this trap that you guys fell into as well, the 10-hour rule for Assassin's Creed Shadows. So you're playing the game, you're thinking in the first 10 hours, oh, this is really great, this is an awesome Assassin's Creed game. And then it drops off, and the narrative is what I'm talking about, because obviously the gameplay and everything is pretty decent, but the narrative becomes really disappointing. Naoe is obviously searching for these boxes, and it just doesn't go anywhere. There's no real payoff, and I fully fell into this trap because I was lucky enough to be part of the community development of this game. I can't really say too much about it, but I had a bit of early access and stuff, talking to developers and stuff. And for me, whenever I got to play the game at events and things, it was always the first 2 hours. So it was never any point after that. But it just doesn't feel like there's any structure in terms of the targets you take out. There's no consequences on the world around you. It just doesn't feel like it's in a linear story. It's just you're free for all almost. You can take them out anywhere over the map, and it doesn't matter what particular order you do it in. And for me, the ending, there was no conclusive ending to the game. So now
it doesn't end.
It doesn't end at all, does it? You've got Junjiro on a mountain with his hands on his hips, and he's looking off into the distance. Wow. He's got the American accent.
Have you finished? I don't want to skip ahead too much, but have you finished Claws of Awaji? Have you seen the final cutscene?
No, and the reason why I fully intended to do this, and I've had 2 weeks, obviously, since my last podcast episode. The reason I haven't done it is because of level grinding. So I've been really struggling against the big, hulky Templar. I've written his name down somewhere. I forget off the top of my head. Tajiro or something?
Tomeji.
Yes, yes. And the thing is, I'm level 52 with obviously Naoe and Yasuke. I've got the mastery tree. I've been doing all these objectives, like side quests and things. So I was like, right, I tried it at level 50 last night. I got absolutely destroyed. One hit, I'm dead. I was getting one hit finished off him. And this is crazy because he does this ground earthquake thing with his big bow staff thing. It's a bit thicker than a bow staff. He slams it into the ground like an earthquake, one hit dead. And I've got all my gear upgraded, so it's plus 20 rations. It's one hit health, things that increase your health. So it's not even my gear, but the 2 level difference was just huge. So I had to go out into the world and do some more objectives. And I found out because I'd actually taken out a lot of the objective circles in the main game. I hadn't then reported back to the quest giver and got the XP for it. So I just went back and I spoke to the person who set the yokai quest. I didn't realize there was actually a secret ending to that, which I didn't know about, where you actually meet a real yokai, which was pretty cool. That's not the DLC, but I got some XP for that. And then there was another person, I think it was Lady Oichi or someone, had set me some tasks. So went to her, got some XP. So I sort of pushed my way up to level 52. And this is at midnight, by the way. I've got work here. I've got to walk to work at 8 a.m. I had 45-minute walk to be in for 9. I was like, right, I'm going to do it now. I'm going to take him out, and then I've got one target left. Both level 52, go in, and I'm still getting one hit killed. So this is ridiculous. So I'm like, I physically can't do this at this level. So now I'm in a place with Claws of Awaji where I'm going to have to go on, probably get like 2 levels above him, get some more mastery tree, the knowledge points, and for more XP, doing some more kills on the objectives board, maybe attempt it again at level 54. And I'm curious, Lewis, did you do this with Naoe or Yasuke?
Well, have you seen my narrative critique up to that point?
Yeah, I'll have to go back and rewatch actually. Anything
Because,
like spoilery, I just had to like skip through. I'll have to come back to it.
yeah, so it's not a spoiler, but I do quickly hash over how I got around this.
Yeah.
And you're gonna hear it's it's such a cheese. So I can't remember if it's actually in the settings. Like instant assassination, so you don't have to
Right.
level up all of your assassination skills. So I've had that on since the start of the game. So for me, one of Naoe's abilities, the one where she kind of like does an assassination on someone straight away, like you get a free assassination move. For me, that is a one-shot on any enemy at any level.
Okay.
So, and I have this all recorded. I didn't take out any of Tomeji's captains.
Oh, I took them all out.
I went straight to the boss fight and I just ran around, insta-kill, and I did it on all 14 of them, and I did it on him as well.
Oh, wow.
So if you want a really easy way around it, just switch on instant assassination and use her ability. You won't be able to assassinate him, but you can use her ability to instantly get rid of him.
I might have to.
And it will save you about 3.5 hours worth of actual game time. Like my playthrough of Claws of Awaji is about 4.5 hours because I looked at 14 people in a circle and I thought, what? Why? Why are they doing it? No. So I just skipped it.
So literally, like in my last 2 weeks, I've been able to play it a little bit. We've been watching that Ed Gein thing actually on Netflix. That's pretty horrifying.
Oh, yeah.
That's taken up a lot of our time, and I think I'm going to need therapy after watching that, to be quite truthfully honest with you. It's crazy. So that's taken up a lot of my evenings, to be fair. And then the time I have had on Claws of Awaji, I've been running around trying to find these captains. So, like, say 14.
Oh, yeah.
And I finally found out when you go to, like, the big castle where all these Templars are hiding, if you sort of cause trouble on the outskirts, they'll run out. So I've had that. And if you go to any, like, town or village, there's, like, a bridge full of guards sort of connecting, like, the open road, like where people go on horseback, to like the actual town or village. If you see this bridge and there's normally like an oil barrel on there, if you start attacking the guards on these bridges, the captains are automatically alerted. So I did this several times. I was smashing through it yesterday. I killed about 7 of the captains yesterday alone. But I was like riding around on my horse, and it's quite a big map, to be fair, Awaji, and there's a lot of hills, so it does take some time. So I was getting around these little villages. I was looking for these bridges. I was starting beef with the guards, and then finally the captains would come out. And at one point, I had 2 captains. One come from one side of the road, one come from the other side. The 2 captains. One of them's got like a crazy fire tempo. The other one's got this huge staff going on, and they're both coming at me at once. So I had to call in Rufino, my main man.
Yeah.
My main man, my guy, the excellent voice actor. Bring him in anytime. He's obviously one of my allies, my recruits that I like to call in. But yeah, finally took him out. And like I say, at the same level, I was like, surely I can take this guy out now.
Yeah.
But to no success. So yeah, I think I've gone off topic here. Going back to where I was originally going with this, the 10-hour rule for Assassin's Creed Shadows, the game just doesn't have a satisfying ending at all. It's disappointing. There's no pieces of Eden. There's 3 boxes that aren't really explained. So I'm going to have to wait and see if this is explored any further in the Claws of Awaji DLC, because I've failed to complete the game in the last
I'm just going to pull a piss. I'm not going to say anything.
I'm sorry, guys. So moving on to some other very good points that the Podyssey's made. And like I said before, it's expanded my thinking. It's made me see Assassin's Creed in a different way. And this was a really interesting one, actually. And this was that the Portuguese who took Yasuke should have been Templars. And I think this was your idea, Lewis. You were pitching this.
Oh, yeah, I was pitching a different opening.
You remember this? You were
pitching
like an alternate storyline for the game.
Yeah. Well, I just thought it would be a fun concept if Nobunaga was like, I've got the Templars and the Assassins working for me.
Right,
because
yeah.
we know that before the retcon that Hattori Hanzo in the lore worked with Nobunaga. I think in real life as well worked with Nobunaga. He's a real person. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So it would be, I just thought it'd be cool, let's do something cool. Let's make Yasuke actually be a Templar, which is what everybody thought going into the game, so that we can have this dynamic of, well, the assassin doesn't want to be working with a Templar, and the Templar doesn't want to be working with the assassin. Maybe they could both find some mutual ground and team up, or would it break them apart? And would Nobunaga be the one man who could unite both of these factions? I thought that's what, I'm just pitching a better idea, not that it would have potentially worked all the way through the game, but it does feel like Yasuke is a character that has a lot of really good, on paper, a really good amount of things going on. And I still think by the end of Shadows, and especially by the end of Claws of Awaji, you get a really good little scene with him towards the end. He comes out of Shadows as like a good character that's been just done so dirty. Like he really deserved so much more. And especially, like I said, the Jesuits, their relationship to him, I feel like it's still really cloudy and misunderstood. Like, you see Yasuke at the beginning of the game, and he's in this formal attire, and they're being nice to him, and then sometimes they're being mean to him, and you're like, what is the dynamic here? Do they like him? And then there's a random cutscene later where Yasuke is like, oh, did you see that stupid thing they dressed me up in? Right. And it's like, oh, right, so they dressed him up to look smart so that he didn't look like their slave or something. Maybe. I don't know, but yeah.
It is strange because his life as a slave on the ship, for example, was horrific. And he really went through trauma, and then he's joking about it later on, like, haha, I remember that time. It's just so strange.
It's a tonally, it's an interesting story. It's an interesting,
I
would call it filler even to that.
I'm glad you clarified about the Jesuits as well, because obviously the Portuguese are the Templars in the game. Well, both of them, two of them, Duarte and Nuno Caro. But they literally come into it like unexpectedly. Like, it would have made more sense to have the people who were horrible people, the way they treated Yasuke. Even like you say at the start of the game, they really treat him in a terrible way, which many slave owners, of course, did. And it would have made more sense to tie them in more with the narrative. And yeah, the thing that I don't get, which I think you guys touched on as well, is Yasuke is a slave, but he never really cares about the conditions of other slaves in the area.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I feel like this, as much as I hate to say that they just used the slavery thing as an excuse to, like, give him a sad backstory.
Right. Yeah.
It's nowhere near as explored as it was with Adewale. Adewale, Freedom Cry, great. What a tasteful way of approaching that without making it like, I don't know, without making it goofy or coming across maybe too pandering, to just be sad for sad's sake. Freedom Cry, great. That's my favourite expansion in the series, just for how tastefully it dealt with that. Shadows, you see a scene of his mum dying, you hear that he's a slave. That's it. Right. It's never, like, brought up again. It's not Yasuke has one line in the Claws of Awaji early on where he says, I know what happens to people who are freed. They're freed of their chains, and they're still not the same person that they were before. And that is the first time throughout the entire game that I've felt, oh, this guy was a slave. Like, That's actually part of his character. I think it is just a reason to get him to Japan and to sort of tap into the legend of Yasuke that existed before, they started writing the game. They thought, he must... Well, he was in real life, wasn't he? He was a slave who came to Japan. So they had to include it, but I feel like they didn't want to use it,
They could have explored it a lot better. And we've had a great question here from James. Do you think this is because of the backlash for having him as a protagonist? I wonder if maybe lines were cut. It's a good point.
Oh, I hope not. I would hate that. Right. But unfortunately, with recent news of
which
what
we'll
happened,
definitely be getting into as well,
it does shine a bit of a negative light, and it does make you think, oh, well, beforehand, I would have said Ubisoft wouldn't go back on that because they're so committed to the historical side of things. But when hearing the game that's just been cancelled recently, it does make you go, oh, right, well, maybe now. Yeah. Now I have to consider that Yasuke's dialogue and his role in the story could have been cut down. But you know what? He still comes out as the better character compared to Naoe. Yeah. He still has so much more going on. His relationship to Nobunaga is tested a little bit in Close Awaji. There's also one line of dialogue later, which I can't really get too far into, but it does, mention, Nobunaga was not a good guy, and you were so blindly following him. And I'm like, yes, finally, do something with it now. Actually explore that theme,
I totally agree. And then also the other thing that you guys mentioned on the podcast as well is there's no real conflict between Naoe and Yasuke. Like, obviously we think about now about like the conflict between Oda Nobunaga and Yasuke, where he could have maybe questioned him. He just followed blindly. But this is the same with Naoe and Yasuke. I mean, they come together so like obviously it takes a while in the game, but once they're together, they're best buds. And they don't challenge each other's ideas. I mean, it sort of brings it up at times, and then it's like, are we the bad guys? Like, are we doing the right thing? And then it's like, yeah, it's all good. Let's just be buds and carry on. It's never really explored.
I think if Yasuke was a character where it was established early on that he clings to the nearest person because he can't, he's so detached from his own people that he still feels like he's so alien in this land that he connects to Oda Nobunaga straight away because it's the only person who cares about him. He connects to Naoe, maybe like, he sees Naoe as his only hope now that Nobunaga's dead, and he clings to her, and he just doesn't question anything that he's done in the past. And then that could be a good storyline because then you could bring back the consequences of living like that. All the devastation that you're leaving behind and bringing that up in the actual narrative and addressing his character flaws, that's fine. The problem is that that's just not true. That's me just pulling it out of thin air because that's not reinforced in the story.
He's obviously got trust issues because he's been through trauma. I mean, even like flashbacks would have been, obviously they're always doing flashbacks in Assassin's Creed, but never really to like, it goes back to the trauma really of his past, and maybe he has trust issues now, but they didn't really explore any of that.
They don't have a dynamic. Naoe and Yasuke do not have a dynamic between them. They are two very separate characters going on separate stories that will occasionally meet up and go, hey, aren't we best buds? Hey, let's get drunk, or whatever. Like they're not. They don't argue. I wish they would argue more.
Yeah.
That's what I love about Assassin's Creed 3. That is a game just full of arguments, and they're all brilliant. Like, anyway, I won't start gushing about AC 3. I could easily do that.
James puts another good comment in. He said he had to earn Nobunaga's respect with the fight he had, if you remember. And is this the fight with the, at the start where he had to earn the sword back? Or is this the fight actually on Oda Nobunaga's death? I'm trying to... Which would you say, James, for that? Because there are sort of two fights I'm thinking of. Obviously, one where he has to reclaim his master's sword, that's sort of early on in the game, and he has to win a fight. We'll wait for James.
I thought that was
to get
very
the
well
sword
done.
I think, yes, it was to sort of prove himself to Nobunaga, but it was also to reclaim his honor for his master who lost his sword, like through losing a battle. So it was more like an honor thing. And that might have been him learning Japanese customs, and obviously honor's a big thing. And reclaiming the sword is obviously more than a physical item. It's like a sign of like weakness to lose that.
That was just a good mission. Every time Shadows went linear, it was good. All of the personal missions, like the Yasuke missions and the Naoe ones, I thought were just so much better. And they just felt like more Assassin's Creed, like the format and the setting of it. I was like, it feels like we're playing an Assassin's Creed game, and then it would always go back to just the grind, the big bit in the middle where nothing's happening. But there was, I loved those flashback missions when you get them. It's like, here's the story. Here's the bit where I start paying attention to cutscenes.
I totally agree. And we've had another really good comment, and then I'll move on to the next section. It's, do you think the story would have been stronger if we just stayed with Yasuke throughout? That's from BPR Gaming.
um, I think maybe in its current state, because now her entire storyline is just my dad died and I need to get this box, and it's like it's very surface level, and we never get any deeper than that, and it ruins Hattori Hanzo's character in the process of that.
I agree.
And it's just by the end of the game, not even the DLC, just by the end of the main game, you go, right, what was the point of Naoe's section? Like, Yasuke's, I can understand. He kills Nuno Karo, he gets that finality, you get a complete story there. But with, and he obviously makes the promise of bigger things to come, attacking the Templars, and you're like, oh, we're here, finally.
The White Room conversations that you guys have mentioned on Podyssey, they go nowhere. So desperate. You learn nothing from these targets at all.
Well, who are they? I couldn't name any of them that leave an impact. Like, look at Assassin's Creed 3. Every single target that Connor kills is somebody that he didn't want to kill, but then gets sort of forced into it because they pick a fight with him. And that's such an interesting dynamic. They all have a reason to be there. You've obviously got the sequences with Hatham that build them up and make them... You recognise who these people are. You know what their deal is. You know Pitcairn's the soldier. You know that Hickey doesn't care, gets drunk. He's not really invested. He just likes the money that he gets from it. He likes the fame and the infamy sort of thing. And what does Naoe's targets do to her? How do they impact her friends, her family, her story, her beliefs?
I mean, they killed her dad.
Oh, are they in the room with us? Yeah, they killed her dad. Sorry, yeah. We got a cool, sad anime death moment where they all walk in a line, kill him, and then walk off. And it's like, I'm laughing at this. I'm not taking it seriously. The only target that I think was genuinely well done was the first one, the shooter.
That's a pretty memorable one.
Yeah, like, she shot her. Fair enough. Good motivation there. Brilliant. You've done something. And then she goes and she infiltrates the party. You get a little bit of stealthy stuff, you know, the typical wear a disguise, you know, that you'd see in Assassin's Creed, and you have to deduce which one it could be. And then she gets a moment where she kind of has like a memory corridor style thing, a confession where she confesses everything she's done, and she's like, but you can't kill me because here's all the consequences that will happen if you do. And then she kills her anyway. And you go, now things are unpredictable. Now we don't know what's going to happen. Because Naoe just proved that she is a lot more ruthless, maybe, and not thinking straight. And I was like, okay, all right, you got me. This is still in the first 10 hours. So...
Yeah, the 10-hour curve.
Unfortunately, yeah, what follows is just not... doesn't live up to that. It doesn't live up to that first target, in my opinion. But I do like the Templars at the end. I think they're quite... Could have
done with a few more, really. And then even like a connection to like how they were influencing the Shinbaku, because I don't believe that this Nuno Kara, this like lanky guy with a pistol and a few of his mates could like influence these like powerful people of Japan. Do you know what I mean? He's got like the skinniest legs I've ever seen. He's not a nice person, but it's just him, a pistol, and some brutes. Like, how many people did he bring across with him? Not that many, really. It's like, how is he influencing this entire huge nation? I don't understand it. I think it wasn't done well.
That's a good point, yeah. He needed to be Charles Lee. He needed to be that game's Charles Lee. And I said that when they first released the story trailer and we saw him for the first time, I went, that guy looks like a Charles Lee type. You know, just a right nasty piece of work that is just throughout the entire game, this looming sort of influence over the story. Because I don't know about you, but I figured ahead of time the Templars are going to be like a twist villain. They're going to be behind it. Because these aren't the Templars. So I knew, okay, the Templars are going to be behind it. But then they're not really. They're kind of just doing their own thing that crops up when Yasuke remembers at the end of the game.
Right. And that's the interesting thing. Like, you've got to think, like, all these people, this huge circle, they were all influenced by, what, 2 people who came across? So it was Duarte and Nunokara. How much influence did they have? Because they were separated from the inner sanctum of the Templars. They went rogue and went across. They were doing their own little mission. The Templars were getting information back that wasn't true. They believed there was pieces of Eden going on with the boxes, and they were just feeding back lies so that they could establish like influence over Japan. But I don't really understand how they had that much power in the region to start with. And then, yeah, it's really like the end of the game when someone mentions Duarte's name, that it was that he was like a pirate guy, Samaroso or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, he mentions him and he's like, how do you know that name? And all of a sudden he's like, right, these people, I need to go after them. And he doesn't really open himself up to Naoe too much, but it's like they do have their individual stories going on, but they connect at times. But a lot of the time they don't even need each other's help. It's like, I need to go do this for myself. And then they don't really feed back to the other one what they've been up to, even though they should, as assassins, they should have like the shared goals. It's really like they're off doing their own thing.
Yeah, and it's like Quebec could do it because they did it in Syndicate, where Evie would have her own missions, then Jacob would have his own missions, and then afterwards they'd meet up on the train and argue about how Jacob had done the wrong thing. Like, oh, you've crashed the economy, now Evie's mission is going to fix it. Like, on a basic level, you understand, like, the brother and sister communicating to each other, they argue, they bicker, and then that leads into the next mission. And I think it's because you're missing those scenes in between the main kills, the main targets, where they establish where they're at or what their dynamic is. It does feel like if you just played as Naoe for the whole game, it feels like Yasuke just comes in and goes, do you want me to do anything? No? Okay, bye.
Yeah, what have you been up to? Do you need me to do anything? I'm off.
And then suddenly he gets the main storyline to the end. Like, suddenly Yasuke, after doing nothing, really, his story is completely shafted. He then comes back and has a great last 3 to 4 hours, I would say, of the game. It's a similar situation as to what happened in Valhalla, where the beginning is really strong and the end is really strong, but everything in between is optional.
That was the thing with the arcs as well, wasn't it? They never felt really connected. They just felt like you were off doing something in that county and then you move to another county and none of it really connects, where your actions should have influence upon the world. Like, you're taking these targets out. You don't feel like them areas get any better. I mean, there's people, like some of these people were like slave owners, for example. When you assassinate them, surely the working and life conditions of people in the region should improve. I mean, as an assassin, you're trying to help people and you're trying to improve their life, as well as, like, for them it is a bit of a revenge story, but you should see the influence on the world of what your actions are doing. Like with Ezio, for example, I mean, by taking down these targets, it is making a difference too. And like with Syndicate as well, that you mentioned, the economy crashing, that's a consequence of the action.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, even the first Assassin's Creed game, you see the world gets more ruined and war-torn as a consequence of what you're doing, because you're unaware that you're actually making things worse.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And it's all about, like, impact upon the world. And I just feel like even though Naoe and Yasuke are taking down their targets, maybe there's more they could do to, like, help the people. I mean, like, the side quests and stuff, like, they're not really benefiting other people. Like, I mean, I'm going collecting like knowledge points by getting like bits at a temple, or like with like the yokai stuff I did recently. That was pretty good because like they were a bit of a menace. I wanted a bit more of storylines like that where you're actually helping people, and like even with the homestead, like I wanted it to be more like the Assassin's Creed 3 homestead, where you help people, you bring them on board, you build a community. And I wanted it to be like you bring people in who have had like difficult life circumstances, you help them, you bring them on board, and you're building the Assassin Brotherhood. You know, you've got a forge now, so we're going to start making hidden blades and weapons and stuff. Even like people annoying like Junjiro, it would have been cool if it had shown him doing some assassin training, but why is he even there? Like, I don't get it.
Oh, I don't like that kid. He's got a weird voice. His voice is really creepy.
It's very American.
It sounds like a woman doing a little boy impression,
right?
But it's not. The voice actor is like an actual kid, so it's just a weird voice. He freaks me out. I would love that. I'd love if, like, as you build up your hideout, you start to see assassins like cropping up in towns and stuff, like just little, a bit like in Unity, you know, how, like the co-op missions, they would have assassins on street corners and stuff that you could talk to. That would be nice, just to show that like you're making a difference. Like you say, just having consequences to these targets. Like after you kill a certain target, now there's new buildings or something, a new renovated area, and everybody's thriving and stuff like that. Problem is, the world's just too big to
Right.
do things like that.
This is what I liked with Rogue. You know, you were buying buildings as a Templar, and you were making the world better for people in America. In like, was it New York? I think it was the city where you could go around buying like burnt out buildings and improve it. And like Shay's doing what the assassins should be doing, and he's a Templar. That was an interesting way to look at it. I mean, Ezio obviously buying the buildings and stuff and pumping money into the economy, helping people out. So yeah, interesting way of looking at it. How you should be impacting the world around you. That's just what I think, anyhow. And what you said before about the assassins on the corners, I mean, we're unlocking these I don't know what they are, like portable. I don't know what you call it. Like you refill your tools.
Yeah, little bureau things.
Yeah, so you're unlocking them, but they're so dead. They're empty, and you'd think like they'd be spreading their ideology around the world. You know, it's a new philosophy about freedom and all this, but they're not really. They're just killing people and then chatting about it like me.
Yeah, I think Mirage did that really well.
Right.
I liked in Mirage. They had bureaus where people are hanging around inside, and they look like they're planning stuff, and you know they've got a couple of floors, and that you can see the bureau leaders, and it feels like AC1. I just feel like AC1. You know, it's a good template that they should have stuck to, and I think with those little hideouts that you can buy and then fast travel to, that was good, but it needed to feel like it was an actual hideout and not just an empty room. Like, just have someone there, someone who welcomes you. You know, just a bit of dialogue going like, good to see you again, brother, or something like that. Just to feel like you're, building something and you're a part of something.
Even though they're
really
assassins, they're not they're like an offshoot of the assassins, but it would have still been nice to think, we're building something based on something that existed before. And like, it's cool. We've got the Exile here in the chat. Welcome, Harrison. You missed a section. I've just done a section on where the Podyssey was right, and I've written down a ton of notes, so you'll have to rewatch that because you would have liked that bit.
Yeah, you'll have to.
Yeah, a lot of these ideas come from yourself as well, so a joint collaboration. But yeah, I really enjoy the Podyssey, and it really makes me think about things in a different light. And I'll move on to the news this week now. And you mentioned Assassin's Creed Mirage. So this week we've actually had the Valley of Memory trailer and gameplay. So it's set in Alula, Saudi Arabia. I went over this in quite a bit of detail recently with Arshak and Joe Raptor. But we actually know for sure now what it's going to look like, how many hours of content. So 6 hours of content. It's a search for Basim's father. And you actually did a really great video on this, Lewis, which I watched this morning. And it was how they could show the search for Basim's father in a way that sort of respects the law. Because we know that he died a very poor man. And he was actually like, I don't know what the word is, but the plans for like monuments were taken, or he wasn't fully credited with it, I believe it was.
Yeah.
Your video was really interesting. I was watching it on my walk to work this morning, but it really made me think about how they could show this as actually like a sort of him trying to reclaim the last bit of his identity. You know, he's losing his identity with Loki taking over, and obviously the female version that he can see is sort of losing himself there. So his last ditch attempt to get a bit of identity is to follow in his father's footsteps and reclaim his honor before he fully transitions into Loki. But yeah, I thought it was brilliant, to be fair. So what do you think about the DLC, and are you excited for it?
Oh, I'm very excited. I'm very excited. Yeah, definitely. I mean, compared to Claws of Awaji, I'm probably not alone in thinking that. I mean, I showed it in my video, but the Mirage Valley of Memory announcement trailer has 3 times the amount of views than the Claws of Awaji launch trailer did, because I think Assassin's Creed Mirage has gained a pretty big following. You know, it's definitely closer to Assassin's Creed than Shadows was, and probably closer than Valhalla was and Odyssey. And so, you know, you do have to track back a bit before you're like, what's better than Mirage? Probably, I'd still prefer Origins, although I haven't played that since it came out. So maybe a little rewatch would change my opinion. But yeah, Mirage, I think, it's a game that had all of the right ideas. It knew what needed to be in an Assassin's Creed game, but it didn't quite have the potential to actually make it happen. Like, I think the one thing holding Mirage back massively is the story, the narrative. I think they were probably forced to do the non-linear side of things just because they were working with what Valhalla had done. So they had to just take those aspects. You don't know, maybe they couldn't write a full story in time, so they had to just do these little segmented pieces. Whereas what I'm really hopeful for, because Ubisoft Bordeaux just did the Close of Awaji, and I felt it was a big step up writing wise from what they did in Mirage. And I feel like narratively, if the Valley of Memory can bring the game together, because everybody's saying that they want it to be set after the main game. I don't get that. To me, I'm like, why not set it during the game so you can make that narrative better? Like, fill it out a bit more, give it a bit extra.
For new fans. I mean, if you're picking up Mirage in January next year, you've got a whole new sequence of events, 6 hours of extra content. It's going to pad out the game and hopefully give the narrative more a direction, because like you say, there's only so much you could get into a shorter game. And even in your video today, which was how the story trailer was better, and I totally agree, it had more of a direction about it. A lot of the Mirage stuff was like, it could have been done in a better way that explained it. Like, even like his motivations for joining the Brotherhood don't really make sense. Even though I'm a huge fan of Mirage, I don't want to critique it too much because I want more content like this, because it did feel like fan service in a way, and it felt like they were really putting a lot of thought and effort into how can we make a game that's like AC1. When this is when you compare it to like games like Valhalla, Origins, Odyssey, like the RPG, they wanted to do something different. And I would love more smaller games like this, which are more like stealth focused. So I don't want to bash it too hard, but yeah, for sure, narrative's where it fell down for me. But parkour and stuff a lot better since the improvements.
Yeah, I think on a gameplay level, especially with Valley of Memory, everything they said. I was watching the stream in the car coming home from work, and I just kept hearing stuff, and I was like, "It's not over yet. It's not over. They're still going. They're still adding more and more." And then they said, "Oh, like optional objectives are back, black box mission." She was like, "Oh, so have you got any new black box missions?" And they're like, "Yeah, we got a couple." And I'm like, "Ah, you guys."
Speaking our language.
Everything they said was a positive. Every single thing. There was not one thing they said where I went, "Oh God,
right,
they're adding that." No, I could not be more excited. The fact that it's free and they're adding this much content, there's loads. Really, they're making the whole. You could go back and replay Mirage now with optional objectives that make the experience more challenging. And from a gameplay standpoint, I think they've knocked it out of the park with everything they announced. We don't know anything about that narrative, though, outside of the fact that it's Basim's father. So that's the only point where we still don't know. That's up in the air. I'm really hopeful that if it's good, it's going to really elevate Mirage as a complete package and make the whole game feel more substantial. And, I really hope that they get maybe a bit extra funding to do another one of these and we get a Constantinople DLC. Hopefully. We need to meet Hytham.
It is interesting how it's come about, because it is obviously the Saudi-backed branch of like gaming industry, and they're like pumping money into like projects which can promote the area and get people interested in visiting for tourism. I've never heard of Assassin's Creed having this kind of relationship with any nation or company before, like being paid. And I sort of covered this a bit in my previous episode with Arshak, and it was like, what if the direction of Assassin's Creed just goes to the highest bidder? And that would be like a worry. I think this has put me at ease. And it's like, it's not just about money. Like, it genuinely looks like an interesting new period of time for him to go into. And yeah, the 6 hours of content. And it is actually narratively worked in with his father, hopefully. I mean, like you say, we don't know too much about that. But yeah, I think you really covered it well in your video that I watched today. And fingers crossed it is like what we were hoping for in terms of like it expands his journey and the game even further.
I couldn't be more excited for this. Honestly, I think if this can really deliver, it doesn't need to feature the Isu. It doesn't need to feature assassins. Just tell a really good story that makes me feel something, and I'm sold. I'm there. you know, and you do make a good point. It could have come across like it was just an advertisement for Saudi Arabia, but because they layered it on top with so many extra features that they were adding in that felt like Assassin's Creed again, you know, optional objectives, black box missions, replaying sequences. It was like, oh, now I feel like it's an Assassin's Creed game. I feel like we really are returning back to the roots, not just in theory, but they are actually creating a classic style game. And I feel like replaying Mirage now with these changes in mind, it's going to feel so much better than well, I do say this on the latest Podyssey episode. I think the parkour is going to be better than Shadows once this has been implemented, because I do think Shadows' parkour is now pretty good. But if Mirage can get that extra boost to the way its parkour works, there's like no reason to go back to Shadows, honestly.
And that sort of brings me to like my final point where the Podyssey was right. I thought I'd moved on, but you've actually reminded me on a very good point. The game's not that memorable for Assassin's Creed Shadows. Like the targets, I don't know how many I could name to you right now off the top of my head, to be truthfully honest. Like in terms of like the main, yeah, maybe a few of the Templars, maybe. But in terms of like the Shimbak Fu, I don't know how many of them I could actually name for you. And I always think about there's a film where the Beatles have been forgotten by everyone, and one man wakes up and has to like rewrite all the songs and re-record all the music. And I think about that with Assassin's Creed Shadows. If the whole world forgot AC Shadows and I had to wake up one day and rewrite the storyline as it was and or name all the characters, I don't know how well I'd do, because I can't retain it. It doesn't sit well in my memory. And I know it's a huge game. I'm 70 hours into this game and I've done it over time. But in terms of like the main storyline, like I maybe you're different because obviously you've made YouTube videos on it and you've had to write scripts and things. But as like a big fan of the series and like jumping in and out of it here and there, like I can't retain the information too well. But it's funny because I can tell you probably every target in the Assassin's Creed 2 Brotherhood. Like I can tell you all about these people and their impact and who they were like in cahoots with, what they were up to, like why they had to be taken out, and that's from years ago. But like, for me, not so memorable. And going back to what you said about parkour, yes, Shadows has the parkour in the cities, but I find it really difficult when you're like in the countryside. Like, for example, I was trying to get to the top of a sync point with Naoe, and I was right below it, and there was mountains, and I was like, right, I'll just climb up the mountaintop. No, she couldn't climb anything. And it's like the other thing is you're sliding down an embankment.
Oh,
it's been sliding for days. Like there's no climbing. You're like scrabbling up, and all of a sudden I'm sliding down. In the end, I got my horse. I went all the way around the ravine, straight up the path, and like went like. And the thing is, that game's huge. So I went like 500 meters, which takes forever. I'm scrolling my phone while doing it because it takes so long. I finally got up and over, and I was like, in another game, I would have just climbed up there. This is Assassin's Creed. Why am I not climbing the rocks? Because they look climbable, but they're not. So it's like parkour's great at times when they want it to be. It's almost like they built some of the game to be parkour friendly and some of it not to be.
I think they built the open world to be a lot more linear. Like there is only one path you can do to get up here, and they think that makes it like fun and challenging, but it just makes it really annoying because I spent 90% of my playthrough just sliding down a hill because I'm trying to do shortcuts. And I don't like the way that Odyssey sort of does it where you can climb everything. I feel like that's a bit too much. Like Assassin's Creed 3, nobody questioned the fact that you couldn't climb up a sheer rock face, but it still had like cracks and crevices where it would make sense that you could. It's just bad world design, unfortunately. I think it's the consequence of that. I think if they were taking into account parkour, I mean, you're just meant to be on your horse. It's horse gameplay. As soon as you get out of a city, it is horse gameplay, and that's all they want you to do. They don't want you to leave the horse. They don't want you to climb, or until you get to the next point of interest. I don't personally like being able to climb anything. But in Shadows' case, not being able to climb up something that is so inconvenienced, it's so in the way. It's like, why didn't you design things differently?
Right.
A little bit flatter, maybe.
And there's a comment from James, but Altair, Ezio, Edward, Connor all couldn't climb everything. That's fair enough, but sometimes there are points in the game where I'm like, she should be climbing this. Like, I'm right below a sink point. There's what look like handles in the rock, and I'm like, she should surely climb this. Or even use the grappling hook. I'm like, can she not do it off? I mean, if you think about like a sink point, this one was a tree. It's like a huge, sturdy log above me. Can we not grapple up? I mean, like the rope launcher in Syndicate. Just get me to the top, let me sink it, and let me move on with my day.
Yeah, for a tree, definitely. Right. You should be able to grapple up to it.
I've moved away from my topic. That's parkour. That's a whole. We could do a whole episode on parkour. We'll get Rapatopoulos on. You guys did.
Oh, that'd be great. That'd be great. Yeah, we had him on the podcast, and that was in a way terrifying. It was, yeah, I really enjoyed that one. But he said, like, I've never finished a story in any of the games. I was like, what do you mean? What do you mean you've never finished a story? But it just proves, people enjoy these games for different things. It's
different
very wide.
Players.
Yeah. Oh, you should definitely get him on. I think that would be a fun episode.
He's a really interesting guest. I mean, he knows his stuff for sure about parkour. Yeah, 100%. So definitely future plan there for getting someone on, maybe in like a November, December episode. And in other news, which is like smaller news that you guys might have missed, obviously the Mirage news dominated this week, but a smaller studio that created the Brotherhood of Venice tabletop has sadly closed. So this was Triton Noir, and it's closing due to financial losses. So you guys might remember this tabletop game. It went live during COVID. It was a Kickstarter campaign, and it was really nice. It added a lot of lore to the series with like playing cards. It added new art style. It was set around Ezio's time, so it was like Ezio's like recruits, and it was like storyline around them. You could paint your own minifigures. It was a really nice tabletop game, and I know Framehold Photography on our team. She was sent an early access copy, and she painted the figures. And they look incredible, to be fair, when they're done. But this game actually added lore to the series, so it worked hand in hand with Ubisoft. They put a lot of time and effort in. But sadly, they're closing because of manufacturing costs going up. And I have a number here for how much they were set to lose. And it's $218,000. That was because whilst they were creating the products for the community, they got all the Kickstarter backing they needed, but all the manufacturing costs went up during COVID, and all the net profit from the Kickstarter was lost. And what they had to do, sadly, was ask for 10% more payment from people, and this led to 150 people wanting a full refund, which obviously they did, and this led to them paying out $31,000. So they lost money on that. And then they had other projects as well. This is from 2021 onwards to 2025. So projects that just didn't get the backing they needed. And they put it down to less aggressive marketing campaigns. And they feel like they could have done more in that respect. But also from the manufacturing costs skyrocketing. And sadly, they're having to close the studio, which I think is a real shame because it was really nice products. And it'll probably make the tabletop quite rare now. It'll probably go up in price, but obviously it's too late for the company because they're going to have to be settling these huge debts. And yeah, I just think it's really sad that obviously they fulfilled the product, they've released it, and yeah, people are going to lose their jobs and they're left with this huge debt. And yeah, it's just really sad because I remember a time where people were really actively supporting it online and backing it. And yeah, it's just some news you guys might have missed this week. So that's it really for Assassin's Creed news, but it brings me on to a little bit more controversial. I'd call it leaked content. It's not really something we go into very much. Let me just find my notes because we're all over the place today. And we don't really cover leaks here at the ones that came before, but it does tie in nicely to our ending topic. We always go into pitching an Assassin's Creed game. And this week, GameFile released information that developers working at Ubisoft have apparently come forward to, I think it's Stephen who works for them, he's quite a well-known journalist, and he came forward and was told by these Ubisoft developers that Ubisoft have actually cancelled a game set in the Reconstruction Era, which is after post-Civil War. It's 1860, 1870, and it would have been a black slave assassin fighting the KKK. And the interesting thing about this is, I'm not saying it was true or not, because obviously it's first I've heard of it when this scoop came forward, but the interesting thing about this Project Scarlet is that it was apparently shut down by Ubisoft internal higher-ups because of the backlash of Yasuke in Assassin's Creed Shadows. And like I say, I wouldn't normally cover leaks here, but it brings me to the question, is this a time period you would be interested in, Lewis, and exploring further? And do you think it's a shame that Ubisoft have potentially cut a project because of the backlash that Shadows received? And will they make less brave decisions going forward when it comes to an Assassin's Creed game?
Yes. Yes, to answer it simply. I mean, what a shame. What a real shame. You know, it sounded so, I mean, wild on paper. You know, an ex-slave fighting the KKK. That sounds mental. That sounds like a crazy game. But that could have maybe been what the series needed, you know? Something so wild and out there, and what a, you know, after making Yasuke a slave and not doing that storyline so well, maybe this, you know, they were really invigorated to give it a proper retelling, you know, and do it properly in a time period that, you know, kind of related to like the AC3 kind of game, but a modern, updated version of that kind of scenario. Obviously a bit more modern as well, with things like the KKK, something that's still, you know, very much an issue to this day. And I just thought, oh, like, what a great idea. And also, unfortunately, it shows that Ubisoft did give in to the hate, and the people, I'm sure you'll have seen it yourself, people make YouTube videos that are on a very different side of, you know, where we are as a fan base. People will make videos with Yasuke crying on the thumbnail and go, oh, like, woke Ubisoft game cancelled and stuff. I've seen those thumbnails, and I think that's just so horrible of those people to look at that aspect of it. But the fact that they are the people that Ubisoft have given into, like, people they listened to that, and they actually cancelled a whole game. I mean, I hope that it hasn't led to things like jobs being lost or people having to leave studios because of things like that. I hope, you know, hopefully Scarlet was at a point where it hadn't been started properly yet, because we know that things like Hexia are going to be the next release, so it was probably very far down the line. But yeah, to hear them just move back an inch, you know, give in to the hate, it does make me very worried for future stories. And maybe it could have affected things like Shadows. Did they pull back on Shadows because of the backlash? It did get an unbelievable amount of hate. I made a video when I saw that there was a poll to cancel the game that had like 70,000 signatures. Yeah. Utterly ridiculous that it got to that point. But unfortunately, you know, that is where we are at the minute, where they shouldn't have done it. They really should not have given in to this. They shouldn't have given in. They should have powered through and made the game. And, you know, Shadows is like the second highest selling in the whole franchise. And you're telling me that why would they then, you know, say, oh, the backlash got to us? It really annoys me, and it really does sound like a good time period to explore.
It's a good pitch, and it's one I've never thought of before, because when you think of it, the KKK could easily be like the Order of Ancient sort of style villains again, you know, even Templars. You look at them and they've got like the Grand Wizard in like his golden robes or whatever. Like the hierarchy is there, and you could take them out until you get to the one at the top. I think it's fascinating, especially the slavery aspect as well. They could have really gone into it like they did in Freedom Cry, where they did it properly. But with Yasuke, it was a missed opportunity. But I felt like during the campaign, the marketing campaign for Shadows, I was like, right, they're being brave here. They're being really, like, they're doing something that they wouldn't have done in the past. You know, they're taking steps to challenge the hatred that's out there. Maybe they are going to start making these decisions. And to hear that it has been cut internally, and like you said, I also hope it hasn't affected people in terms of jobs and stuff, and they've just been moved across to different studios or working on different projects. But yeah, I mean, it would have been a great game. And what an interesting pitch, and one we've never discussed on the podcast before. We like to end our episodes with pitching an Assassin's Creed game, as you'll know, as I wrote in recently to the Podyssey with the Australia pitch.
Yeah, what an interesting idea that was. I thought that was a good one.
And that was interesting because obviously I was talking about and like thinking about the area where British were going across and setting up the camps. But we've actually had some writings this week, which I want to get into as well. So I'm sure there'll be more news coming out about Project Scarlet, and we may cover that because it does tie in with this section. We might not. It depends on how like leaked it is. Like we try to keep things PC. We like to keep things very like Ubisoft friendly on the show because obviously ambassadors of the brand. But yeah, in terms of that, like we had a writing that's really interesting. I just have to find my notes. Here we go. This is from the Scouse Assassin on TikTok. A lot of us in the UK will know his work. And he's actually just commented 2 words. So less of a write in this one, more of a comment on a video. It's really interesting, though. He commented saying Ned Kelly. And I was like, I'm not sure who this is. So I had to look him up. And it's actually an Australian bushranger, a gang leader and police murderer who was around in Australia in 1854 to 1880. I've not heard them before, but apparently they're a big part of Australian history. They were a robber, and they ran the northeast county of Victoria in Australia from 1878 to 1880, which is like the city of Melbourne and all the south. But this is like Peaky Blinders, like syndicates, gangs on like a higher level. Like he was out like murdering people in the street. He was always wanted by police. If you look him up, he's got a huge beard. He's what you think of as like an old time, like almost like a Wild West sort of villain. Like you have to Google him, Lewis, see what you think.
Ned Kelly.
James says Ned Kelly was massive. He was crazy. You see what I mean?
Yeah, look at that. Wow. It's got like
I just found this is like another interesting point in time which I hadn't considered for Australia. With like I say, with the syndicate Peaky Blinders sort of aspect, they could go down the gang route. I just think that would be another interesting one. So that was a great comment. And also in terms of like writings, we've had quite a lot recently because I did the interview with Ubisoft about 2 weeks ago on their website. Yeah. Well, it now appears on Ubisoft Connect. So when people are about to boot up Assassin's Creed Shadows on PC, it comes up with interview with Core 96 from the ones that came before.
I've seen that. I have seen that myself. Yeah, I play on PC. I've seen that. I've seen the logo.
So from that, people are on the Ubisoft website and then they're clicking the link and then they're hitting the contact bit on our page and sending emails, and it's been compliments about the website, about the content, about the interview. So really cool to see. Keep them coming, guys. I love it when we get an email like writings, anything you want us to discuss on the show, send it our way. Happy to discuss them. Any comments on videos as well, more than happy to get into that and look at your perspective and take on it. And we had another interesting comment as well that I want to go into, and this was from Caleb Mott. And he said, I hope Yasuke gets a DLC set in Portugal or more backstory. But at the end of the day, I just want free content. So this is cool, I mean, with Yasuke, it'll be interesting to see him dismantle the inner sanctum of the Templar networks that are operating out of Portugal. I mean, at the end of the day, Nuno Cara and Duarte will be reporting back to people. Obviously, we know the inner sanctum's still around. And they would have ultimately progressed in Japan and then gone back with their findings and potentially the pieces of Eden they were hoping to find, whatever it might be. But
there was the end of the Rufino quest line as well, which hinted at a Black Order or something of Templars, something on the horizon.
But he could act. Do you know the Black Cross from the Templar comics? He could be like the assassin version. So they're like, the Black Cross is like taking out key members of the Assassin Order, but they don't necessarily say Templar Hunter. He just says like with Yasuke, but it's sort of what's implied is that he's now hunting Templars. So I'd be up to see Portugal, even if it is just like an Awaji style DLC to go across. And I actually felt that Awaji was a little bit on the expensive side, so free content would be great. It would keep people interested. And like you said, people are more interested in Mirage right now, going off them numbers, looking at the trailer. So yeah, I'd be more than up for more content for Yasuke. And like you said before, he came out the better character, really. He developed more than Naoe. There was more interesting tones going on. He's more an assassin than her, even though she is like by blood. It's interesting.
Yeah, that sounds like a great idea for like a second expansion for Shadows. Let's get a Yasuke-centric one that, takes him to Portugal. What a good idea. Yeah, and then you can just get it feeling more classic and let's maybe, I don't know. I feel like by the end of Close of Awaji, I understand why Yasuke doesn't become an assassin. But at the same time, let's fully dive into that. How does he feel about Naoe and what she's doing? Why isn't he an assassin? And, how does his beliefs differ to the assassins in regards to the Templars? And, let's properly get into it. Let's, again, like you were saying with the legacy of Shadows, let's make it feel memorable. Give it something that adds to the lore. Because I think that's maybe the biggest issue with Shadows, is it doesn't move the pin at all in terms of what we already knew about the franchise. There's no talking points. Like, I don't know about yourself, but when the game came out, after a few weeks, I stopped making videos on it because I was like, I've talked about everything. That's it. There's nothing. It's not a game that sticks with you. Whereas Mirage and even Valhalla had such a big ending, massive ending with Basim and the tree and, all the animacy stuff. It had Desmond as well, like the reader. So much left for you to think about.
And there was definitely a lot we could get into on that. I mean, with Assassin's Creed Shadows, I totally agree. There's only so much you can really cover because you're just really going over like things that have either been covered before or there's nothing really to discuss in terms of like the lore because it doesn't add to it. In fact, it probably breaks the lore on more than one occasion, especially with Hanzo, which you mentioned before. It does a terrible job really of showing him as the demon. He's meant to be one of the most vicious assassins ever. He doesn't come across that way.
No, he doesn't. No, he certainly doesn't.
Yeah, I just think they should have looked at the lore that was created in Assassin's Creed Memories and run with that. Even his armor, for example, we mentioned before that he worked with Oda Nobunaga. It wasn't shown like that at all. I mean, even in what I find with Claws of Awaji, he's coming across as the ex-boyfriend, even though he never had anything with Suya. It's like, don't tell her I'm here. She wouldn't like that. It's just so strange. Like, I mean, they're both like actual like assassins, but they don't want to team up and get together because he hasn't tried to get her. But then all of a sudden he has the information that she's on the island. Like, where does he even get this information from? We know where Naoe gets the information from, the puppeteer. But where does Hanzo get it from? When it's been 14 years or something.
I don't know. I feel like I do like the way he feels like he's like a mentor sort of figure. Like when Naoe is captured, he's the one who sends Yasuke, and I quite like that. It gives him a feeling of like he's in charge and he's moving the pieces into place, and you can see him going on to become more of a mentor figure. But the obviously with that whole implication with Suyu, with Naoe's mum, is that he's going, oh, I should tiptoe around her and avoid her, and you're thinking in your head, eventually they're going to run into each other. They're going to have to have that conversation.
Of course. I haven't completed it yet, but I can take away from that maybe the big reunion's not coming. That's fine. I'll have completed the game tomorrow. I mean, I just need to get like 2 levels up, take this guy down, maybe even turn on the insta-kill assassinations like you did. Yeah. Great advice, by the way. But yeah, next episode, guys, I will have completed Claws of Awaji because I've got another 2 weeks. Because like I said, we're rotating now, me and James. So next week, it's going to be with Calvin once again. He's been creating a lot of videos recently for companies, so he's going to be going into that. We're going to be discussing all things Assassin's Creed Mirage. And maybe we'll get some more news on this Project Scarlet that's apparently been cut. But if you guys want to support the show, you can rank us on Spotify. You can also now find us ranked on Google. So if you put in Rally the Creed, we come up straight away. We're putting all the clips on social media, so you can find us on there. I've been really like smashing through the clips. I've been ripping each episode apart. Some of them are like 2 hours long, so I've been watching them again, getting the best clips, and we're getting a real response now. So I feel like as we push towards 15 episodes, we're getting a really good reputation for ourselves. We've had some really interesting guests, and if you guys want to write into the show, just send us an email. You can go on the contacts page on the Once Again Before website, top right hand corner, and it'll instantly send us an email. Anything you like, you want us to discuss, we'll get into. And massive thank you to all our listeners on Spotify, TikTok, YouTube. We really appreciate the support. And a big thank you to Mr. Willis Makes Movies. Lewis, thank you so much for joining me, my friend. Where can people find you?
You can find me on YouTube at Willis Makes Movies, or you can find me on the Podyssey, the podcast that I do with the Exile. That is over on YouTube at AC Podyssey. It's also on Spotify And that's about it. Yeah, that's the main ones.
Very good. So it's been great to have you on the show, and also to get the perspective from another showrunner, so another podcast expert. I'm definitely not one, but from you and even the Exile in the chat, you've been incredibly supportive of our journey here. You know, creating. We never wanted to look like rivals at all. We didn't want to tread on any toes, and you guys have been so supportive. It's not been like that at all. You guys have been really supportive. We've got a bit of crossover going on. You know, we're writing into each other's shows, and I know I've been invited on to the Podyssey later in the month.
Yes, absolutely. We'll have to get you on. Yeah.
You'll see us again, and we'll just keep this healthy relationship going. And it's really great to have your guys' support, and we really appreciate it. And a massive thank you for the support we've had tonight in the chat. We've had loads of interesting comments, and it's kept us going. And also in terms of TikTok gifts, you guys are funding the Once Came Before website. We really appreciate it. So massive thank you. And thanks again, Lewis, for joining us. Keep in touch, and we'll do more collaborations in the future. So we'll see you soon, Assassins, in the next episode. I'll be back for episode 15, I believe. But next week, episode 14, with James and Calvin, handing it over once again. And then after that, we're going to have to start thinking about our 15th episode. So that one is going to be a special episode. There's going to be many of us from the team joining. So lots to look forward to, guys. So take it easy. Have a great week, and we'll see you soon.